Hello, Augustana. Welcome to our weekly reflection on the upcoming preaching text for Sunday, January 3rd. It is the second Sunday of Christmas, and we continue to read out of Luke chapter 2. One of the things that I would encourage you to do in preparation for getting ready for worship on Sunday would be to read all of Luke chapter 2. There's a lot of ground that gets covered, and it's quite interesting the way Luke lays things out. You have, of course, the extensive narrative around the birth of Jesus that includes the actual birth, the visit of the shepherds and the angels that are so important to how we listen to and treasure that story in our church and in our lives. Then in verse 21, 8 days after Jesus is born, he is circumcised and he is named according to the law of Moses and the custom of the people. And he's also presented in the temple. And so there's all these religious rituals that take place after the birth of Jesus that are really important in terms of his identity and how we understand God to be at work in the life not only of Christ, of Jesus himself, but also in and through his parents. And you have that wonderful story of Simeon and Anna who meet Jesus when he's brought to the temple. And then following that story, the family returns to Nazareth, his hometown. And of course, that's in fulfillment of a prophecy that he shall be called a Nazarene. And that brings us to the end of the chapter, the reading for this Sunday, verses 41 through 52. And Jesus is now 12 years old. So the other interesting thing about Luke is we get these stories of Jesus as a child. He's the only gospel writer that provides that for us. And the story for this week, I think, is timely. The stewardship theme that we've chosen for this text is engaged in learning, and I would turn you to your faith practice cards that were passed out last fall and read through that. There's two cards that talk about what it means to be engaged in learning as faithful followers of Jesus Christ, and let's read the text and applying sort of the same things that Jesus does while he's in the temple. What I want you to do is I want you to listen to the text and pay attention to what the Holy Spirit is saying to you and what you hear out of this story and how it impacts your life at this point in time as we put a close on 2020 and move into 2021. Now, every year, his parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover, and when he was 12 years old, they went up as usual for the festival. When the festival was ended and they started to return, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but his parents did not know it. Assuming that he was in the group of travelers, they went a day's journey. Then they started to look for him among their relatives and friends. When they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem to search for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished, and his mother said to him, "Child, why have you treated us like this? Look, your father and I have been searching for you in great anxiety." He said to them, "Why were you searching for me? Did you not know that I must be in my father's house?" But they did not understand what he said to them. Then he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. His mother treasured all these things in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and in years and in divine and human favor. So when Jesus is in the temple, he's listening and he's asking questions, which is a great thing for us to do anytime we read a Bible passage, to listen to the text and to ask questions of the text. What do you hear? What questions come to mind for you? A couple of things that I find to be, they're not central to this story, but I find them to be very, very interesting. The parents were engaged in learning themselves. They were practicing their faith. They went to Passover in Jerusalem every year, the great festival of Passover where the Hebrew people remember and celebrate and literally recreate God setting the people free from slavery in Egypt. And the fact that they went to Jerusalem to do this is no small thing. And it was a large family group that went. And it was interesting how they traveled together and how they practiced faith together in community, which is what we do, an important part of what we do, something that we're missing right now. Then they leave to go back home. And it's interesting, they're not even worried about whether Jesus is with the group or not, because somebody they assume is taking care of him and watching over him, and he's part of the group. But they discover he's not. They have to go back to Jerusalem. They're very anxious about trying to find him, to look for him. After 3 days, they find him in the temple. I can only imagine what that must have been like for the parents searching for him for 3 days. But he's in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. Jesus is engaged in learning here. He's 12 years old. He is figuring out for himself what it means to be a child of Abraham. Who knows what he actually knew about himself at 12 years of age? How many 12-year-olds do, as a matter of fact? But nonetheless, he was engaged in learning about his faith, what it meant for him to be a Jew, a Hebrew, a child of Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Jacob, and that whole lineage coming down to him. And of course, when the parents finally find him, like parents, they scold him a little bit. Why have you treated us like this? We've been searching for you in great anxiety. And the response of Jesus kind of stops me in my tracks, as I'm sure it did his parents. Why were you searching for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house? So even at 12, his listening and his questions, Jesus has a sense of who he is, who he belongs to, and his need to be in the Father's house. And when the angel Gabriel visits Mary, when the shepherds visit Mary, she takes that information and she treasures it in her heart. And here again now at the end of chapter 2 in Luke, we find out that his mother treasured all these things as well in her heart. And as she tries to absorb and understand this child that belongs to her but doesn't belong to her, this child that belongs to the whole world and comes for the whole world. The last thing I would say about this story at the end of chapter 2, it serves as a bridge from Jesus as a child to Jesus now as an adult in chapter 3. He's baptized in chapter 3, and then he begins his ministry as an adult. And so the last story, as it were, that Luke tells in his narrative of Jesus as a 12-year-old serves as that bridge, bringing us into his adulthood and into his ministry. And of course, that journey will take us all the way back to Jerusalem and to the cross and to the empty tomb. So read the text, listen to it, ask questions of it, and I hope that you will be blessed as we worship together online again this Sunday, January 3rd, 2021. Happy New Year, Augustana, and continued Christmas blessings. Thank you.